Hello everybody, good morning for all people attending this summer camp in 24. My name is Fernando Alves. I'm here to make this masterclass about the climate change and viticulture, and most important for us, all the strategies to adapt our viticulture for climate change. We have also collaboration of our colleague Joanna Valente from R&D team. Will be on videotape because it's impossible to Joanna be in person today at this talk. And for sure, you already know the landscape from the Douro region is at the same time beautiful, but at the same time also very challenging for our viticulture. We are placed in the north part of Portugal. This is a shape of the region nowadays, with three sub-regions along the Douro region, with Baixo Corgo, Cima Corgo and Douro Superior here on the map, with the part of the vineyards displayed in this map. And we represent more than 50% of steep slope viticulture of vineyards around the world. This is data from the Sherwin Research Center from 2006, but it's still updated, this kind of data, and it's easy to see that Douro has more than 53% of the viticulture with slope with higher than 30% of slope. Another characteristic from our vineyards is the diversity of systems that we can find in the landscape, since the stone terrace or the new and modern systems like large terrace from 2 rows in the past. Nowadays, we only building the narrow terrace with only 1 row in the terrace, and also the vertical rows that nowadays we use up to maximum of 30% of slope. In the past, we use a little bit more, but we adapt our machinery for this slope, and nowadays we only use these vertical rows up to 30 to 35% of slope. For sure, about soil, so what means soil for us is a leptolic soils. That means it's a very thin layer of soil, normally around 30 to 40 centimeters of soil. And then we have the bedrock. The bedrock is schist that we can easily broken this schist in the past by hand. Nowadays with some machinery in order to broken and to make a blend of this soil with the part of stones up to a deep maximum of 1.5 meters deep in order to plant our vines in the place. And the resulting soil, what we can call soil, is a very stony soil with a low pH, with a low organic matter, with medium in phosphorus and medium high in potassium. And the vines need to fight against this quantity of stones in the soil. We try to develop new sustainable steep slope vineyards. This is a project that was running here at Quinta do Bonfim since a couple of years ago. This is a digital elevation model from our landscape. When we want to rebuilding a landscape, we act first to know how to implant, how to install the new terrace in our landscape. And we use some new technologies based on laser technologies for vineyard preparation in order to give the parcels, both in vertical rows or in terrace, the correct geometry, and also to place the roads to support the drainage systems in the surface of our vines. Related to climate, this is a map with the annual distribution of precipitation. It's easy to see the shape from the west part of the region to the east part of the region, with the less precipitation when you run to the eastern part of the region. And the same pattern, it's easy to see for temperature, but temperature is more obvious near the river, at the bottom areas of the Douro region. For sure, we can also for the precipitation, for example, we have an annual precipitation from the normal from 31 to 60. This is a standard for precipitation in Douro. We made in this PowerPoint a comparison with the new normal from 91 to 2020. Normally, the normal for precipitation and temperature needs to act in 30 years to get stable data. And we saw the new distribution of the precipitation. Made a comparison between both. What we can see is, we have less 3% from both areas, but the problem is the change of the pattern of the distribution of precipitation. We have less precipitation nowadays in months of February and March, and more precipitation in October and November. And the problem is we need this precipitation at the beginning of the season, not at the end of the season, for viticulture in North Hemisphere, for sure. But we need this precipitation. It's more important for us here than after the season, after the harvest. Another point is because I need to return, because this is very fast. And for the warming in the region, this is the results from a work done, a very important research work done in the region, supported by Hadvid with the cooperation of Professor Gregory Jones. It was done in the past, in 2010. We published this data in 2012. I made a short participation in this work, and what we studied at the time was the future projection for the region with 3 different emission scenarios that give us information for 3 different times, for 2020, 2050 and 2080, both for temperature and both for precipitation. And this data from temperature from 0.8 to 1.8 degrees Celsius is for the most easy model from scenarios projections to the worst scenario case. And the most important thing is this work was published in 12, but the data, I know, because I participate in that, we use the data up to 2010. So that means we made the first scenario of projections from 2020. It was 4 years ago. And nowadays, when we compare the projections with the real data in field, we match for the medium scenario the data. So that means we can expect for the next steps for 2050 and 2080, probably we can get these projections in the near future. This is how this kind of data was special release and the development of this data in the old Douro region for the both starting from the historic scenario with 3 different scenarios of emissions for the Earth and for 3 different time scales, and we can see how we can expect in the near future the Douro, the temperature and the precipitation for the Douro region. In this work is a different approach, is made by our colleagues from the University of Villarreal. This team works nowadays with Symington, with a very important project that we are going to speak in this presentation at the end of this talk. This is a combination, this is a method of Euclidean distance. This is a comparison both together from precipitation and extreme temperature. And we can see from the actual data, the historical data, and for two different scenarios of projections and two different time scales, what happens to the risk from the Portuguese viticulture areas. And you can see the development of the red zones, and we can expect in the future the higher risk for the vineyard in our conditions. To finish this part, and related to Douro and to Portugal, this is also a very interesting paper published by the same team, is to study the relocation of some grape varieties, where we can find the bioclimatic suitability for these grape varieties. And I only use two examples for this talk: Historia Franca from Douro region and Antão Vaza white variety from Alentejo. This is the current data, and in these two panels for different scenarios and for the same time scale, we can see easily in the maps where these varieties can find the best suitability for these, to grow these varieties. Recently, very recently, probably 2 months ago, the team of Professor Van Leeuwen from Bordeaux published a very important paper to study for all the world global changes in the suitability for wine growing. And they summarize in these maps that we can find in the legend what happens for different areas of the globe, both what happens related to the risk for the suitability or unsuitability to grow vineyards, and also from two scenarios from 0 to 2 degrees Celsius, or to warming between 2 or 4 degrees Celsius. And what we can see from North America, Europe, Africa, and for Asia and Oceania, it's easy to see that the south part of Europe are under the higher risk for the next future for the suitability. And the same we can see for the drought projections for the wine growing regions. The same maps analyzed, and same pattern also for the south of Europe. So, but we need to act with some short-term, medium-term, and long-term adaptation strategies. This is a very important project that runs in the recent past, in the University of Villarreal, nearby from this location. It's called Climb for Wheat. You can find a lot of information and papers published from this project in the website of the project. And I will show you a very short video about the strategies that we can use nowadays to adapt the vineyard for the warming
Europe is the
conditions.
world leader in wine production, with a strong impact on its economy. The biggest challenge being faced is to reverse the negative effects that climate change and extreme weather events have on wine production. During the last decade, the increase in temperature has led to shifts in the grapevine's growing cycle, influencing berry ripening, wine composition, and typicity. This impact makes it necessary to develop very specific adaptation strategies, and thus reduce the impact of climate change in order to maintain the European wine sector competitive. In the short term, that is for 1 or 2 seasons, there are several strategies that help ensure a sustainable future. Appropriate canopy management helps delay the vine's development cycle and prevent the final stages of maturation from occurring during periods of high heat. To illustrate, a well-performed leaf removal can reduce water consumption and also postpone ripening until a cooler period. Applying sunscreen creates particulate films on the leaves, encouraging the plant's metabolic growth and reducing sunburn during periods of high heat and water stress. The use of protective nets also reduces sun exposure. Supplemental irrigation. Given the growing scarcity of water resources, irrigation must be implemented with water savings in mind, while still complying with the production rules of wine regions in order to maximize its benefits. Drip systems optimize the amount of water allocated to each vine, while plant water status indicators can be used to optimize irrigation scheduling. Soil management. The use of specific plant species used as cover crops in vineyard interrow spaces contributes positively to soil fertility, depending on whether we are in a dry or wet season. Some plants compete very little for water and promote soil fertility and health. This all helps maintain the vine's vigor and prevent soil erosion. Pest and disease control. The control of pests and diseases should be constant, since climate change may exacerbate them. Long-term adaptation strategies comprise of all the measures that require structural changes of vineyard system. Training systems. Long-term strategies start with changes in training systems that should encourage heat and drought tolerance, reducing the accumulation of sugar content in grapes, and lessen the impact of temperature and radiation in the cluster zone. Scion rootstock combinations. Another important measure to adapt to climate change is the selection of suitable scion rootstock clone combinations to preserve wine's typicity while delaying grape ripening to better deal with the increase in summer temperatures and dryness. Although challenging, the goal is to find new varieties and clones that are more resistant to dry and very warm climates. Vineyard relocation. In more extreme cases, the relocation of vines to higher elevations, coastal zones, or areas with low sun exposure may be required in order to take advantage of more favorable climate conditions. Climate change is here, and educating the consumer to gradually adapt to different styles of wine resulting from modified terroirs is also very important.
This is very important that this video is wonderful because it summarizes very well all the strategies and all the actions we can do to adapt our vineyard for climate change. And what we do in Douro, we use, for example, the topography of our region is wonderful. Is at the same time challenging to work in vineyard, but is a powerful tool to adapt our grapes to the different kind of climate conditions. For example, the most interesting strategies is use the elevation and exhibition of our landscapes to adapt for the grapes and to the different grapes. And other tool is the use of new tools, like, for example, remote sensing techniques with the infrared image, both with airplane, drones, satellites, that classify the difference between vines, plots, and properties in order to classify each plot, to give different attention, different strategies, different practices for different blocks, for different parcels, in order to give the different objectives for the grapes, for different kind of wines that we can produce in different locations. Another one is, for example, how to example the strategies that we can use for elevation and exhibition. This is the properties from Quinta do Vesúvio and Serra da Ribeira. In the River Douro, face in same location, facing each other in same location. And what we do in our R&D department, we made a transect in the digital elevation maps, and we building the profile of the landscape from the Quinta da Serra da Ribeira to Quinta do Vesúvio, with the river this is the shape of the landscape of the two properties. We have two weather stations in both banks of the river. And the weather stations are placed here at this position of the profile of the landscape. And with the data getting from these two weather stations, we can compare both banks of the river, and it's very easy to find that from the Quinta do Vesúvio facing north to the Quinta de Sor da Ribeira, it was facing south, there are a difference in temperature near 1 degree Celsius from one landscape to another one, to the other, and there are a change in the temperature from the bottom of the hill at, for example, Quinta do Vesúvio to the top of the vineyards around 2 degrees Celsius. So we can use all these conditions with the classification of the soil characteristics based on the vigor maps that I showed you before. With these characteristics, we can zoning our grapes in order to adapt each variety for different locations and to get the better and to adapt the needs related to the temperature for the cycle of this grape variety for each location. And this is represent for us a wonderful way to adapt not only for to choose and select the best terroirs, but also to adapt our vines for the climate change. Another tool, and this is very, very important, not only for Douro, but for the Portuguese grapevine, is the diversity that we get. This is a key to adaptation for sure. And in Portugal, there are more than 300 grape varieties in the national catalogue. From that one, we get near 250 from local varieties that we can use in our properties. And in the Douro, there are more than 100 varieties authorized in the Douro region. So using this wonderful biodiversity, we can adapt the varieties for our production conditions. An important remark is the action and the role that Porvid is a Portuguese association for grapevine diversity, where Symington is one of the founders from this association. And this association, with a work for more than 40 years, with a cooperation of 150 researchers in partial time, because this is not in the past was not unofficial. It was an unofficial organization. It's a kind of network between research centers, companies, a lot of different bodies in the regulatory bodies in the region to promote two things. One is the selection of the varieties with a specific strategy for clonal selection that Portugal is on top of this strategy, and also to promote the conservation of different biotypes from our vines or from our vineyards. That means, for example, if there are a very old vineyard that needs to be replanted, there are a team from this organization that go to the field to find the very old varieties and to keep these varieties for a conservation place. Is like to building a Noah's Ark for the viticulture in Portugal that allows the growers in the future, for example, to recover a very old variety that we found that is very well adapted for different kind of conditions, and this is a very important job. Symington, as I said, is one of the founders members with a high contribution since the very beginning. We grow more than 500 clones in more than 6 hectares at our properties at Quinta de Bateide and also at Cavadinha. And nowadays, this is a participation of our colleague Joana Valente, that we are happy to say we get the information just moments ago that the baby was born. Yeah.
Mitigate the effects of the climate change when growers can adopt different strategies, short or long-term strategies. The short-term strategies are adopted annually according to the climate conditions, and the long-term strategies are adopted beyond the lifetime of the vineyard, and can be like the relocation of the vineyards or the selection of different grape varieties. The irrigation is often considered a short-term strategy. However, we like to put this strategy in the middle of the two pillars, because irrigation has a cumulative effect on the vineyard, and also requires lots of planning and a huge investment in the installation. So we consider that is not a short-term strategy, but also something that we should plan in a long-term scale. Nowadays at Symington we are applying, or at least studying, almost the effects of these different strategies to deal with different climatic conditions that we are facing in the recent past years. Regarding the long-term strategies, in the Douro we have the advantage of being able to play with orography in our favor, putting the grape varieties in the most suitable exhibition and elevation. We also study different training systems in order to discover the one that is more favorable to the plants regarding the use of water. And as we have seen, Portugal has a huge genetic diversity of grape varieties, and this is also a very important point in adaptation. However, in the great majority of the cases, we don't know the viticultural and enological potential of these varieties. In some cases, very little, but that's why our company decided to implant some experimental fields, the grape libraries, where we have selected some varieties that we consider that could be interesting to explore here in the Douro, and to study their potential, viticulture and enological potential, and also to be like a repository of diversity, and also contribute to the genetic conservation of these varieties. To study the varieties, Symington has established 3 grape variety libraries. The first one in Quinta do Ataíde in 2014. Here we have 53 varieties, the most common grape varieties in the Douro, some more used in the past and others unknown. We have the main varieties of each Portuguese wine region, and we also have some international reference. We have here 24 varieties of reds and whites. The second grapevine library is here at Quinta do Bonfim. Here we have 29 varieties, only Douro varieties. We have the plants spread all over 2 plots, one of vertical rows and another one in narrow terraces, which allow us to study the influence of the different types of vineyards in the grape varieties, because they have more or less the same exhibition. And the last but not the least, we have a third collection only dedicated to white varieties in Tapadinha. Tapadinha is a vineyard at more or less 600 meters of elevation, and here we study the enological potential of 11 white grape varieties to produce white Douro wines. To understand the behavior of these varieties, we've been carrying out a study since 2017 in the grape libraries to study the phenology, the main stages, bud break, flowering and veraison, following the VitAdapt project protocol, and also to study the maturation period, the ripening cycle. We are collecting weekly samples for every grape variety and to determine the metabolites accumulation dynamic. In this graph, we can see the first results from our studies. We are comparing the mid-date of veraison in the 18 grape varieties we have in common in Bonfim and Ataíde. And as we can see, we have almost the same distance from the first to the last variety reaching this stage, 18 days to Bonfim and 19 days for Ataíde. And we also notice that the group of varieties is almost the same in the first ones to reach veraison and the last ones. That means that the varieties have the same behavior even under different climate conditions. Another example of preliminary results here for Quinta do Ataíde, we have on the left side the mid-date of veraison and on the right side an interpolation for the date when each variety reaches a target value of sugar accumulated. As we can see, we have a different classification between the varieties, and whilst we have also a huge number of days between the first and the last one, more than 30, showing great variability and a wide potential of adaptation. In addition to grape varieties, we also study the rootstocks and how they influence the behavior of the grape varieties. We have an experimental field installed since 1999 in Quinta da Cavadinha, where we study the relation between 4 rootstocks and 5 grape varieties. And we use this field to understand how the rootstock can influence the vigor, the phenology, the fruit quality, and so many other parameters. Here we have some examples of how the rootstocks influence the different varieties. For example, for Touriga Nacional, the rootstocks show low impact on phenology and sugar. However, the 110 Richter is clearly early for veraison, and 1103 Paulson shown tendency on delay the maturation period. For Touriga Franca, for instance, the rootstock doesn't show an important effect on phenology, but an important impact on sugar accumulation. The 196-17 is the rootstock that promotes higher accumulations, and the other ones tend to delay the maturation. As we also saw, the soil plays a very important role in our region, and it's very important to conserve the soil and preserve from erosion. That's why we keep natural and swan cover crops to improve the soil structure, to promote the biodiversity and the conservation of the soil, increasing the availability of nutrients to our plants. The main extreme climatic events that we face, or the most important or more critical that we have for is the sunburn and the extreme heat during the summer months. And to protect the plants, the vines, from the effects, the negative effects of these extreme events, we apply biostimulants and kaolin in our vines, protecting them from the radiation and turning them more resilient to the high temperatures during the summer.
Okay, thank you, Joana. After this short overview about the strategies for practices to adapt for climate change, it's now time for a short break in our talk. We have a break of around 15 minutes just from now. Okay, so welcome to second part of our talk. As you can see in first part, we speak a little bit about the adaptation strategies for the warming, but you have also a note that drought is very important for us. So this is the reason, because we are going to be more focused in this second part of our talk in the strategies to deal with drought in the vineyard related to the water management for the vineyard. For sure, we can act in soil, we can act in canopy, we can act in different practices, we can choose the varieties, the rootstocks. Is a kind of summary of what we saw in the first part of our talk, but we need to understand, this is very important for us, the concept from soil, plant, atmosphere for water management. This is a picture of one of our trials, and we need to understand what happens between the climate, soil, and the relation between the water in soil and the demand from atmosphere. Is this model is mostly of them is regulated by the canopy and the vines in between both parts of this concept. And we need to understand this, and we have some, for example, we start to study the dynamic of the water in soil. For this dynamic from soil, plant, atmosphere, from the water dynamics, we set up an experimental plot here at Quinta de Bonfim, starting in 2020, combining water potentials from the vines, soil moisture measurements to study the soil-plant atmosphere relations, and the impact of that in yield and quality. For example, from this data, and we're going a little bit back, because since 2017 we take weekly data from our experimental plots. This is one of the experimental plots based here at Quinta de Bonfim. And we can see from 17 to 24, this data was updated last week from our trials, what happens with the water at 30, 50, 70, and 90 centimeters depth in soil. The red line is the 90 centimeters depth soil moisture in soil, and we can compare the development of the dynamic of the water between seasons, through the season, and compared seasons. For example, 2022 was dramatic for us. It's easy to see there are no water available because it's an extreme drought that starts at the end of 2021 and runs up to the end of 2022. But for example, in 2024, we recover with beginning of the season at the end of last year with a lot of rain. We achieved the field capacity soon than ever, for example, in 2024, and they last up to the end of the spring with the soils at field capacity, but our soils are very shallow soils, so the capacity for store water in these soils is very low. So if the rain stops, even with soils at maximum of the field capacity, we start to lose water very, very quickly. And at this time, for example, the last one measurements that was taken last week, the data that we can deliver for our viticulture teams is near the readily available water for the vines. We reach this value at this moment. The difference from this year to the others is at the deeper layers of the soil, we have a little bit more moisture than the past years. So our viticulture team can adapt the strategies for this capacity of the soils to deliver a little bit more water to the vines. And only to give you some information about when we speak about water potential of the wine, of the water in the vines, a little bit about the physiological concept of this. For sure, we know that the water from soil only goes to the atmosphere through the roots, then from the trunk to the shoots, and then to the leaves, and with the stomata of the leaves that are released the water from soil to atmosphere. This is transpiration. Other part is evaporation directly from soil to the atmosphere, but in the middle of these two parts there are a vine that can make the transpiration from the water available in soil to the atmosphere. And normally what happens is there are a different gradient of water potential from the roots to the atmosphere, and this difference between the two different these extreme gradients that are able to push the water from the soil to the atmosphere through the vine. And what we try to analyze is the difference between the availability of the water in soil and the transpiration is the demand, the VPD, the pressure vapor deficit from the atmosphere. It is a combination between temperature and humidity that normally push the water to come out of the vine, the leaves, and the sap flow inside the vines try to adjust inside the xylem to adjust this movement of the water in the vine. And what we try to analyze is the water potential or the plant water energetic status inside the vine to determine which is the level of the internal deficit that we get in our vines, and to apply different strategies, different tools to manage the water and to have more water available inside the vine. For example, this is a picture that I show for you, and I ask for you to see what is difference, what you can see in difference in this picture. Not the CD. I don't give music at this time to the vines yet. But can you see significant difference between leaves? For sure, there are a little one that are burned there. But if you look deeper for this canopy, what we can see with a thermal camera is that. And easily, you are going to see this leaf in the middle of the canopy as a different pattern in temperature from the others. And when we analyze the temperature, this one has more 10 degrees Celsius than the others. What happens? It's a kind of, what I say, we apply paraffin, liquid paraffin in this leaf, so that means we stop the transpiration of this leaf, and we take the new measurement after 30 minutes, and the temperature of these leaves increase on around 10 degrees Celsius. This is what happens if there are no water in the soil. So normally, the stomata are closed, the temperature rise in the leaves to adapt in order to the vines don't lose water, but there are other side effects on this. And if these effects are extreme, are not beneficial for the vines, for different physiological metabolism inside the vines, and this is not good, not only for the health of the vine, but also for the quality of the production that we can achieve at the end. This is only a simple way that we think it's the easiest way to show you how these physiological concepts works inside the vine. Another one is what we need to act for the vine water status. For sure, this is related to the climate, for soil, and for the variety that we grow. And we need to understand what happens between no water stress for wines and water stress for the vines. But what we want to achieve is a balance between both of these levels of stress in order to have a moderate water stress for our vines, and we need to understanding the concept of moderate or controlled water stress in order to reduce a little bit the berry size and vigor, but also to improve at the same time the quality, compounds, concentration and synthesis of different compounds in order to have positive effects on the quality and also to maintain the yield at the same level. And to do this, we need to understand what happens between, for example, if you have a lot of rain, what happens with drainage, we need to apply drainage or cover crops to regulate the water available for the vines, or if you have a very strong water stress, you need to apply some deficit irrigation. So we need to understand when and how to apply some supplemental water to the vines. To do this, we apply a lot of different tools in the field, since the Schollander chamber that we measure the water potential inside vines, that I show you 2 slides before. We use a Schollander chamber with a gas bottle that gives pressure to the chamber. We put a leaf inside the chamber and we analyze when a drop of sap comes out of the petiole, and we saw the pressure that we need to apply and the difference between if you need to have more pressure to apply, that means the vines are under a high stress, internal stress. And we can compare this very easily because there are a lot of this kind of data around the world for different varieties, and this is a very good tool to apply to understand what happens. But nowadays we use different strategies. For example, we use a sap flow system. This is a kind of sensor installed in the trunk of the vines, like in these vines, that take real data of the transpiration of the vines. So it's a kind of sensor that analyzes the difference in temperature in the shoot of the vine, and analyzes the difference from this point to this point, and the difference between these 2 points are related to the movement of transpiration of the water. And we can get in our laptop information about, for example, what is the quantity of the water transpired by the vines at this moment, under different scenarios, different strategies that we can apply to the vine. But we can use this water potential to analyze, not only compare seasons. For example, here we are comparing the 22 with the 2020. There are totally different. I can show you the values between 2 seasons and also for 2 varieties. This is Touriga Nacional, this is Touriga Franca. Normally, the values on these graphs means, for example, up to 0.2 megapascal, the values are always negative because the potential are negative from the root to the atmosphere. At up to 2.2 megapascal, the vines are comfortable for water. Between 2 and 4, the stress are moderate, and more than 0.6, there are already a strong stress or severe stress. And normally, with values higher than 1.2 megapascal, the vine starts to have some cavitation and problems inside the vascular system of the vines. But normally, not only some varieties are very well adapted to deal with this, others don't have the same capacity, and we need to understand what happens for different varieties. But the problem is, at this moment, we apply a different kind of tools to examine the water inside the vines in order to apply our different strategies. Since we use soil probes that I showed you before, we use Schollander chambers to analyze the water potential. You use the systems of sap flow to analyze the real time of transpiration in the vines. For sure, we have a great basis, is the crop evapotranspiration based in the weather stations climate weather stations. We have a network of 16 weather stations spread for our properties to fill this database for this information. But we use also thermal image, or in cooperation with the University of Villarreal, these ones, the stomatal conductances, to analyze the release of vapor water from out of the leaves, but this is more for scientific studies. All the others we apply currently in our conditions, and nowadays we use a lot of drone image and also satellite imagery in order to analyze the behavior and the biomass and some different kind of indices from the canopy that are related to the drought of the canopy. And we use all of these tools to support our decisions for the management of the vineyards. Nowadays, we use a lot of this new tool, is carbon the isotopic from the isotope from carbon, the 13 carbon isotope, to analyze the composition in the must. I explained very briefly what this means. For example, in the atmosphere for photosynthesis, the carbon that normally all the plants use are the isotope 12. When the vines and all other plants start to have some kind of stress, they lose the discrimination between the 12 and 13 and start to accumulate more 13 inside the carbon structures. The carbon structures of in vines are located in the berries, in sugar. So at the end of season, we can sample a lot of different berries in our experiments and compare the quantity of the C13, carbon 13 in different varieties and analyze which varieties are more exposed to drought during the last 3 months just before the harvest. This is a powerful tool to compare if the strategies that we apply are very good or to take decisions for the next year. The only problem, we cannot use this tool to manage the vines in season, but we need to take information to the next season. Normally, we use a lot the water potential, and nowadays we compare with the carbon isotopic composition. What is the difference? When you analyze the pressure from the vines, so that means it's like you analyze your blood pressure. And the blood pressure at this moment are, I say, highly significantly related to the last dinner yesterday in Malvedos, probably. And the carbon isotopic is not related to last night. It's like you analyze your cholesterol. It's all the things you have done in the last 2 or 3 months. Okay, it's more strong to analyze this behavior. But we still continue to have water potential. And why we need to found new tools to analyze the water potential in vines? Because it's not easy to do the water potential. Because the water potential that we apply, in this picture, there are a sunny shade of the vines and the night part to analyze some of these indicators. And we use the pre-dawn water potential. That means we need to analyze this like that. This is a real picture of our team taking data in the field. I only take a note of these lights in the hill. Someone there in the middle of the picture, and this was taken at 4:45 a.m. And then there are another picture with a little bit more light because it's a flashlight that my colleague used to see the drops in the camera. This is at 5 a.m. Only to show you, this is with a flash, only to see what happens with a flash. And this is the same picture at the noon, at 1 p.m. is the same, the location of the lights from the village are there. So this is the reason, because it's not easy to do this. We work for this, or for example, myself have done this kind of collecting of this data from water potential since last 22 years. My colleagues are more younger, but there are 5 to 6 years of these nights in the field to collecting the data. This is the reason, because you need to find other kind of tools, other recent tools that can replace not only this strategy, but tools that can give us more special release of the information, not only related to this plot and that plot, but for the total vineyards that we are using for our crops. And I leave you now again with Joana Valente from the InVideo tape to explain what we are doing recently with the new tools.
Years, we had the opportunity of integrate different European project consortiums and contribute with our knowledge to the creation of innovative tools. For example, the Vine Scout, an autonomous robot with several sensors able to collect information in the vineyard related with canopy indices, water stress status, a very useful plug-and-play tool dedicated to precision viticulture.
With this third prototype, we have addressed the most critical points that we have found in the way to a commercial solution. We are testing the new cylinder, the new sensors, the navigation system, the new robot, because the dynamics have changed a little bit. And that is one hand. And then on the other hand, we are just getting all the data to build the final version of the water stress model.
É extremamente importante para uma viticultura de qualidade nestas zonas vitícolas ter uma boa percepção e uma boa monitorização daquilo que é o funcionamento do estado hídrico da planta. Adaptamos parte dessa informação para validar todo o trabalho que o Vine Scout procura medir no campo, para que no futuro possa constituir uma solução que substitua todo o trabalho de medição manual na parcela.
Our navigation system is based on local perception. So the first thing was to get very reliable sensors. So now we have a multi-beam LiDAR with a time of flight sensor and 4 ultrasonic sensors. So all put together give us a very reliable perception of all the vicinity of the robot. Then another important point was the batteries, the source of energy, and we also have a very strong and very nice batteries right now. And then another point was to get something very strong for the environment. The system right now, we can just go and test many hours in the field without any problem. So another thing that we have improved a lot was the navigation, the steering system. Now we have a very precise electrical cylinder so we can navigate and we can do many things that we couldn't do before. We are ready just to take the next step and industrialize this solution.
Another example, the VISCA project. In this project, the objective was to build decision support system with different information for the wine grower, be able to adopt different strategies, long or short-term strategies to face the climate change. The information was like the short-term forecast, sub-seasonal and seasonal climate forecasts, phenology information, irrigation strategies, among others. More recently, we integrated the Vitigeos consortium In this project, we use the satellite imagery combined with in-field sensors to support farmers, providing early warnings and giving them the tools to make better decisions to crop management. In this decision support system, in this platform, the viticulturists had the possibility of access weather and climate forecast, phenology forecast, forecast for disease, and also a sustainability module and an optimizer tool.
Viticulture is a European project funded for the provision of commercial services using Copernicus and GEOS data and also in-field sensors. Our objective was to provide a single platform combining a set of intelligent services, providing information about phenology, climate, diseases, and crop management. As data sources, we are using cameras in the field, sensors, weather stations, and also drones images. And all the combination of all this information is used for optimizing crop management, and so that the farmers are aware about extreme weather events, so that like this they are prepared for these conditions and they can put in place measures to mitigate these effects. The consortium, we all come from many different backgrounds, but the combination of all our expertise and capacities are working together and collaborating for, in the long term, achieving three main outcomes, which are reducing emissions, improving productivity, and being more resilient to climate change.
The Viticulture platform combines different services to support the wine producers and the farm managers making decisions throughout the entire growing season, such as the weather and climate, which gives you a forecast of weather services for the next week, but also for the next few months, so you know what to expect during the season. It includes a disease forecast, which help you predict the diseases that could potentially occur in your parts of the vineyard. It comes with a sustainability and business case as well, where you can input your own data, which can help you support making more sustainable decisions on all of the different practices that you've got going on your vineyard. We've got the phenology model as well, which helps you to predict which is going to be the next phenological stage on your vines occurring when and where, so you can tailor that to your management activities. And finally, we've got the key crop indicators, which are satellite-based products that help you visualize the evapotranspiration, water use efficiency, and overall vine production in the vineyard.
Viticulture DSS showed me several value adds. We could anticipate the climatic conditions thanks to seasonal and sub-seasonal forecasts. We could take advantage observing both a wide-eye view from satellite imagery and also a close-eye view from the in-field camera among the vines. The remote sensing also helped us showing different areas of stress and diseases inside the vineyards, allowing us to act timely. All these led us to have a better cost saving, avoiding unnecessary treatments and a better use of the resources.
Tools like Viticulture help us to navigate through the complexities of the climate change. They enable more resilient and sustainable viticulture practices.
VitiOS is a platform that allows growers to have different tools in the same space. For example, combining weather with climate forecast and with phenology models and other kind of tools to take decisions. This is very important. For example, in our case, use mainly the key crop indicators based on satellite imagery in order to upscale the information that we can collect in field for demo fields or specific fields in order to export this information to the ensemble of the property or to the other properties in the same area to support decisions. For example, for water management, this is very important for the viticulture in South Europe.
We apologize for this interference in the video that are out of our control. So the team will try to solve later this. We don't expect this one, but we need to move on. Only to finalize this talk about some kind of new projects that are ongoing, that start in 22 and will be finished in 2025. I ask your attention for these three, at least these three. There are others, but this is related for climate adaptation. The Vine Adapt to Climate, it was a project to access climate projections with a high spatial resolution in field, to evaluate the risk of extreme climatic events, to study impacts of climate change, and to creating a living lab for intelligent and strategies and service for the growers. Another one is the mix for wine, is to study new exogenous particle film to apply in the vines to protect the leaves to the sunburn, and the BioGrape Sustain, with the most important things to do is the molecular identification of new genotypes in our very old vineyards. Some studies about the bioinformatics of gene transcription that are related to drought and heat stress adaptation of the vines, and also to study the gain for the clones to relate to the biotic stress tolerance, and the last and not least but not least is the microbiome diversity from our ecosystem that can help our grapes to deal with heat and water stress for the vines. For example, in Vine Adapt to Climate, there are a recent paper published 3 months ago related to the high spatial resolution data from the field. This is the property of Bonfim. I highlight this parcel that you can see in the red lines there in the field. And for this block, this team is a cooperation between Symington and Hadvid and UTAD, the University of Villarreal, and also Herdade Esporão in south of Portugal. We cooperate both in this work. And this is a high spatial resolution model with a 10-meter spatial resolution from daily data from this parcel. And we not analyze the data, the climate data for the total ensemble of the property, but we can get data from different pixels or different spots of this parcel. And starting from this, we can also analyze, for example, for this index, the summer days index with temperature higher than 25 degrees, what will be happen in the near and long term for this plot, and we can adapt the different strategies to work in the future inside this parcel. Another one, and this is very, very recently, we start this project in June 2024, that means 1 month ago, is the living soil, is a healthy soil for a healthy soil to permanent crops living. This is a huge project with, this was funding by European Commission around 12 million euros for this project with 5 countries, 42 partners, near 5 years of duration of the project, and the coordination of this project is done by University of Villarreal. The main purpose of this project is to study 5 living labs in Portugal, France, Spain, Italy, and Poland for different 5 permanent crops, vineyards, olive groves, chestnuts, hazelnuts, and apple orchards, and comprise at least 50 demonstration sites and 10 lighthouses spread in Europe. In our case, the living labs, the living soil will be focused on reduction of erosion, improve soil structure, increase water storage, but also important, the biodiversity of the soil, to enhance this biodiversity and the overall resilience of the soil. At the end, we will exchange this experience and best practice to deliver to the ensemble of growers and producers, not only in our region, but also in Portugal, and for the European producers, and I can say for the world producers in vineyard, in order to promoting soil health indicators and soil health strategies to recover the soils in different crops. Here at Quinta do Bonfim, this is a shape, the shape files of different parcels at Quinta do Bonfim, and we made with different color all the kind of tools, experiments, and past projects that are related to this subject for the Living Soil project, for example, the study of erosion, the cover crop studies, the grape library that Joanna made mention in this talk, but also to modeling soil water in the green parts of the property, also the water stress studies in different parts of the property, the microzoning, and the cultural practices that we can apply in this vineyard. There are some pictures of different plots related to these experimental plots that are in the same framework of the strategies that we are working, not only for Quinta do Bonfim, because we try to upscale this information and the results of these experiments to apply in the more than 1,000 hectares that Symington family grows in the Douro region, but also in the other locations in Portugal and outside of Portugal. And Quinta do Bonfim is a lighthouse candidate for this project to be in the future a demo site to the best practice in soil to deliver to the growers is the main purpose of our participation in this project. And this is a part of our commitment and our support for a more ambitious climate change strategy related to our strategies for sustainability, but we are going to speak about this tomorrow with our colleagues. Thank you for your attention.